Hey there, Barry Johnson from Johnson's Coins here. Like we talked about last time, that we'd be talking about Lincoln cents this go around. Mostly where your value is going to be in the wheat cents and the earlier wheat cents to boot. There's a couple of Whitman folders. One starts from 1909 to 1940, the second 1941 to 74. Then there's those that carry the Lincoln Memorial cents. Not a lot of extra value in most of your Lincoln Memorial cents. The second book, the 41 to 74, the steel cents are in there, but those are fairly common, nickel a piece maybe. Or on up, nicer condition coins can be worth a little bit more. Most of the value is going to be in that first book, 1909 to 1940. In 1909, the designer of the penny put his initials on the back. Victor David Brenner, VDB, was on the reverse of the coin. And then they took that off later in 1909. So in this video, I'll go over how to identify where that VDB is and to look for that, particularly if there's an S mint mark on the 1909s. The 1909S is a $100 coin, roughly 85, 100. But the 1909S with the VDB on the back starts at about $400. We'll discuss grade from good to brilliant uncirculated, and we'll go from there. So appreciate you taking a look at these videos. Appreciate if you would take a second and subscribe if you're enjoying what's going on, so you'll get alerts for that. Please hit like. And all right, let's go look at some Lincoln cents. All right, now we are talking about Lincoln cents, like I said. And as you can see, we've got a list of some of the better dates, some of the key dates, the 1909S with the VDB on it, 1914D, even the 1909S. I almost forgot about that, but pencil that in. This gives you kind of an idea of what you could expect to receive from a dealer in the grades, like good, 400 for 1909 with the SVDB on it, 14D, good 85 and good, but this is uncirculated range. You'll see that the 14D outdoes the 1909 SVDB because more people held on to the SVDB in nice shape because it was the first coin out for the year, first one from San Francisco for the year as well, or for the series even, and they put those away. And so there's quite a few of those out there actually in pretty nice shape, even though it says $900. The 14D, they got spent quite more often. And even though lower grades, you can see they're not super uncommon, $85, but the nicer you get, it jumps up to 180. But then once you get into uncirculated, and there are different grades of uncirculated that go way up from there. So the 1931S, they made like 750,000 of them. Lower grade, they go up 45. Don't jump up too much to very fine, and even a little bit more to 100, but it is a harder date to find. 1909S, like I said, people put those away, but if you have in a collection that you've inherited a 1909, look for the S on the front underneath the date, and then look for the VDB on the reverse. And so this is only 1909. The VDB stands for Victor David Brenner. He's the one that designed the coin. And a little ways into 1909, the mint officials or whoever said, well, that's pretty arrogant of you to put your initials that boldly on that reverse. So they took it off later on in the year of 1909. So you'll find 1909s that do not have the VDB on it that are not quite as expensive. So keep that in mind. Mint mark wise, where you do find the mint mark, you'll see on this 55, just right underneath the date, pretty easy to see that D on there. If I can get that to focus, there we go. That looks a little bit better. So kind of brilliant. I've kind of lined this with 55Ds. You can see that's not that uncommon a date, even though it's 65 plus years old. So anyway, we've gone over grading on Lincolns before. We'll quickly touch on it. We'll start with good. You can see it's pretty worn down. And then You'll see that the wheat stalks are pretty worn down, but there is still most of a rim left on that. Very good, gets a little bit better, a little bit more definition on Lincoln's bow tie, and his part of his ear where it goes in, a little bit of definition in his hair, a little bit more on the wheat stalks and so forth. Fine, should be a little bit nicer there. You can see a little bit more definition around Lincoln's ear, the bow tie, his shoulder, and the hair and so forth. I should be able to see all the lines in the wheat, the ends of the wheat stalks, but then not real well defined. Very fine. You should be able to see more definition in those wheat stalks. And you can see it's getting sharper definition. The bow tie sticks out just a little bit better, and so a little bit nicer there. Extremely fine. Should be a real nice coin, actually. You can see the definition in Lincoln's cheek, in his hair, jawline, in the ear. The bow tie pokes out a little bit better, and then the reverse, you can see the lines in the wheat stalks quite a bit better as well. Almost uncirculated or about uncirculated. You can see there's could even be a little bit of luster creeping in. You can see above Lincoln's head there's some original copper color luster on that. Like we talked about with the Indian head scents, do not clean them. They'll end up a pumpkiny looking color, very undesirable to collectors. And then here's a full red. Now you can find uncirculated that aren't this bright red. They just will turn brown over the years for the most part, depending on how they're kept. But this one's really nice, 55D, common date, like I said. But you can see a lot of the definition on that and the brilliant color on that. So that's something to keep an eye out for on the Lincoln head scents. Very quickly, I didn't go over this, but today's March 7th. The spot price nearly $2,000 on gold, and silver spot right around $25.65 today. Not much change from the last time we talked. So junk silver, you should expect about 19 times face. Silver dollars about $26 a piece for your common average one. They'll go up from there, the better condition. So some of the minor keys on the Lincoln head series are usually in the teens with a mint mark on them. You'll see there's the 1910S, 1911 DNS, 12 DNS, 13S, 14S, 15S. Just a quick example on that. We can get that close enough to see. You'll see that the D's they made more in Denver in most of those years than they did in San Francisco, and so the San Francisco ones have a little bit more value. You see in good, let's say the 11S, it starts at $20, but slowly works its way up to about $100 for an uncirculated one. So that gives you an idea. They did make some early proofs. Some of those are pretty expensive as well. So it gives you kind of an idea on those. Now, most of what we've been talking about, the scarcer dates, are in the first book of the Lincoln head scents, usually the Whitman folders, if that's what they collected the coins in. Dansko album might even have a similar date range. They might be complete. Now, in the second book, you'll find the still scents, and people talk about, oh, there's the lead pennies or the silver pennies. This is lower grade. This is the Philadelphia mint. A little lower grade, but it hasn't been cleaned up, which is nice. But they're not particularly scarce. That one's probably worth about a nickel, something like that. Here's a 43D that's in the EF, extremely fine area. And then here's a nice, well, an AU. Now, if I hold it just right, you might be able to see up there some lines going through it. This may have been scrubbed a little bit with a Brillo pad. There may have been rust on them, which is not uncommon to see on a still scent. They'll oxidize, and some people have taken and tried to clean that off. So you'll need to be careful for that. There also have been processed that they have a real glow to them, and that's a false glow. You really shouldn't be interested if you're looking to buy those, and you can't expect to get much from a dealer on that. So the second book that goes from 1941 to about 74, there isn't too much in those. There is an error in 1955, the Philadelphia Mint only, that has a obvious doubling of the date on that. It would look similar to what you see right there, that 55. If it's that obvious of a doubling, that can be worth about $1,500 on up, depending on the condition. So that's a scarce error. There's a 1969S that's a double die, not quite as rare as that. But mostly after 1941, there aren't too many dates that are very scarce. So the wheat cents, the common date wheat cents, you can expect 2 to 3 cents a piece for most dealers to pay you for those. And then, but if they're really nice, even in the first book, if it's as nice as that, then you can expect a bit of a premium on that. So condition is everything, but average circulated ones, like say 2 to 3 cents a piece for most of your wheat cents. Some people are starting to collect from 1959 to about 1981, the ones that are made out of copper. Since 1982, halfway through, they went from copper to copper-coated zinc, and which are a little bit lighter. So that's kind of an overview on Lincoln Head cents. Most of the value are in the wheat cents, particularly the earlier wheat cents, and not too much in the Lincoln Memorial. There are some proofs that are okay, and then there's some error coins that we may go into later. I don't know a whole lot about error coins. I don't collect them and have a lot of interest in them. But anyway, if you have any questions for me, feel free to email me at johnsonscoins@gmail.com. And of course, be sure to like these videos and then hit subscribe for alerts for when the next one pops up. Appreciate you watching.